I'm so excited today to have Rebecca Kallaus on the podcast. Rebecca Kallaus is a vision architect and the founder of Business Done Better, the go-to operations partner for coaches, creators, agencies, and small businesses scaling from 6 to 8 figures. With over a decade in business development and operations, she's helped companies from solopreneurs to $20 million plus restructure their systems, align their teams, and regain control. She's the creator of the 5-engine operating system and a longtime strategic partner of High Level, having directly shaped platform features to better serve founder-led businesses. Known for simplifying without dumbing down, Rebecca helps visionary founders get out of reaction mode and scale with structure, sanity, and sustainability. Rebecca, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Yeah, super excited to be here.
Welcome to Catalytic Leadership, the podcast designed to help leaders intentionally grow and thrive. Here is your host, author, and leadership and executive coach, Dr. William Attaway.
I would love to start with you sharing a little bit of your story with our listeners, particularly around your journey and your development as a leader. How did you get started?
Yeah, so you could say like my journey from different angles of things. You specifically asked from a leadership perspective. That one has an interesting twist to me because I was always a huge introvert. I mean, I'm still definitely an introvert. I think I've had a lot of people tell me to my face that I'm lying because I think that I'm so extrovert, and I'm like, you have no idea. And I do speaking on stage, on all sorts of things, and be like, oh wow, you're such a natural speaker and a natural leader, and I'm like, cool, that's a learned skill. So, in grade school, I was actually the shyest person in my entire elementary school. So
Wow.
that's where things came from, where like all my report cards as a child was, we think Rebecca's paying attention, but we can't really tell because we can't hear anything that she says. Literally every report card every year. So my development there was definitely a long journey. And I think it stemmed from me just learning how to find my voice. And that came
Mm,
from so many different layers and so many different experiences. But
mm,
I had so much that I wanted to say and so much that I wanted to be in the world doing. And so I think it just, that kind of just naturally evolved where I'm the kind of person that if somebody is doing an amazing job, like I can take a back seat to something. But whenever something is being done in a way that I'm like, ooh, like that could be optimized over here, or ooh, we're missing a huge opportunity to do this, where that's going to be a win-win-win across the board, then it's like a compulsion for me to improve that. So that's kind of
mm.
the essentially the origin of my company, Business Done Better, where done better doesn't mean that I or we know better. It means that if better can be done, then we do that. So that's kind of just the philosophy that carries throughout everything, I would say. But yeah, so like I guess that's the best way I can answer that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think you keyed in on a couple of things there that are really important. First, so often I encounter people who are introverts who say, "Oh, that's a limitation. That's a box that I'm trapped in, and that's going to prevent me from doing things like speaking, like being out front." And I think your story is a fantastic illustration that that is not true. That you can step beyond that. I too would fall in that introvert thing. In fact, if you look at my Myers-Briggs, if this is extrovert and this is introvert, I'm over here. Like I'm all the way on that side. And the reality is that does not limit us, right? It's just part of how we're wired, where we draw our energy from. And if we craft our lives and our rhythms in the right way, we can do that in a way that leverages our strengths, but still enables us to do the things we need to do to grow our businesses. So I love that you brought that out. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I'd like to even add one more thing onto that, where just this is just my thought process along those lines is that being an introvert, I I wouldn't even say that I tolerate it. I hate being on camera, anything when my team, anytime that they need me to record content, it's the most painful thing. I'm lucky my team loves me because I definitely drive them crazy. They're like, "Did you record the thing yet?" I'm like, "No," because I avoid it as
Do I
like
have to?
the worst thing on my task list by far, is anything just recording content or stuff like that. I can read off of a teleprompter, but I don't like talking into devices. That's really what it is. Because it just but so that's two-part thing. One, like that's why I don't like the recording content because I'm talking to a device because I'm not talking to a person. And two, that's
Mm,
also my thought process for how I do any speaking stuff and how I do step into a leadership role is because my desire for positively impacting others, my desire to connect with people and move things forward in the world, that so greatly exceeds how much I hate being on camera and recording content and speaking into a device. And that's a high bar. I really don't like those things,
that's
but I
so
love people
fantastic.
that much more.
I love that. And that's a great example of how your why and your core can drive you even beyond the areas where you're not comfortable. Growth and comfort don't coexist. You get to
No,
pick one, you know?
no.
And I
You know,
love that you have taken that choice.
my favorite vocab word is hormesis. Do you know what hormesis means?
I do not. Bring it.
So, hormesis essentially is the sweet spot of where a negative stimulus is constructive. If you have too much of it,
Ooh.
you shut down. If you have too little of it, you don't grow. So hormesis is
Oh,
that
so
sweet
good.
spot in the middle.
Oh, that's so good. I love that. And it got my mind racing now. That's so fantastic. I love that concept.
I heard that word for the first time on a podcast with Wim Hof and oh my gosh, Tom Bilyeu.
Oh, that's so good. I'm definitely keeping that one. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. So when we met at a conference not long ago, and one of the things that we were talking about that you shared was something that you are the creator of this, the 5-engine operating system. That's core of a lot of what you do in your business for companies. Would you share that 5-engine operating system at a high level? I'd love for our listeners to hear that and to see the structure and the framework of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the origin of that is I have about a decade of background in business development and operations, and I've worked with a handful of different operating systems, and I was really deep diving into operating systems, and I was like, I don't know of an operating system that's really scalable from solopreneur to enterprise and industry agnostic. And I was like, that's silly. Like that there should be one. Why is there not? And so I just kind of like took a step back and I was like, okay, well, there's an opportunity here. I'll I'll create one. 'Cause that's just how my brain works is I can just see kind of the puzzle pieces of things and put them together. And so I just kind of started, it kind of came from how I was able to grow my business from solopreneur to a team of 20 in 2 years. And, that's something that, people are like, more people equals more problems. I'm like, well, on some level, sure, but my team is everything to me. And just we're so strong operationally. And so we've been able to put certain systems into place to be able to do that. And I'm still to this day the only executive on my team. Like I carry a lot of heavy lifting on my shoulders. I still have more pieces to put into place. I kind of grew my company backwards from how you should start a business. Hindsight's always 2020. But that was something that there's certain things that allowed us to do that well, where we have the operational structure and strength of most more so than most companies in year 5, 6, 7 plus after only 2 years. And it was because of just certain things that we had started to do internally. And so when I was kind of thinking about all this, I kind of took things that we were already doing and then built them out a lot further and realized it was really a full scale operating system. So I call it the 5-engine operating system because no matter what size company or what industry, you always have 5 engines for your company. You have revenue, brand, client success, operations, and leadership. And I say that in a particular order because you start a company with revenue. If you don't have revenue channels coming in, you just have a nice hobby. So I did my business backwards because operations was my strength. So I skipped the first two. The second one
Oh,
is brand. You have to do brand next because then that takes your revenue channels, and then the brand is what creates it from a sustainable perspective. And so you have to get that into place as soon as possible. Then you always have to make sure that you're taking care of your clients properly. Okay. So, on some level, you have to start sort of with that ties into, like, obviously, what are you doing for revenue? But once you have the first two engines handled, then you want to dig into and make sure you're really delivering the best thing possible for your clients. Operations is really how you scale. A company cannot scale without operations. That's why our specialty on the operations side is working with seven-figure virtual companies, because that's something that once you hit seven figures, operations becomes your number one pain point. And then leadership is essentially the essence that ties everything together. So leadership is always, that's the top topic of our conversation today. But leadership it's really the life force that keeps a company together. It's where your vision lives. It's where your culture lives. There's so many things that are wrapped up into leadership. So
mm.
there's so much more to it, but that's kind of it in a nutshell. And yeah, I could definitely go down a whole rabbit hole there.
Well, I love the framework and the simplicity of it. I mean, you've taken
Mhm.
something that is pretty complex and you've made it accessible. And I think
Yes.
that's the mark of a teacher, somebody who's gifted at communication. Where do you see most of your clients or people that you're talking to? Where do you see them really breaking down in that framework? Is there one place more than another, or is it kind of equal across the board?
I mean, before we start working with them, or
Yeah, yeah, before, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely before, yeah.
So, well, and because we don't help with, with the front end side of the business, we only help with the back end piece. So the last client success and operations, and a little bit on the leadership side. But that's something that the breakdown is it's not always consistent. Um, I'd say that the certain consistencies are, however, are communication and delegation. There's
Mm,
a lot of times where things fall through the cracks of where, the visionary has an idea, and then they want the execution team to go and do a thing. And they're like, hey, do the thing. And then execution team takes that ball and then they start to do a thing. And then leadership's like, that wasn't what I was trying to say. And execution is like, well, you didn't give us all the info. And then like, or
yes.
there's no QA, and then it gets turned over to the client, and the client's like, that's not what we're missing this. There's errors and things are broken over here. So there's all these different holes in that execution thread. So that's a part of the operating system. Is I just call it the 5-phase build cycle. Maybe I'll come up with a better theme in the future. I'm not that creative with
Mhm,
naming things. It's literally 5 phases of execution. So
mm,
anytime you're executing something, you're building something, you run through 5 phases. You have um, ideation, architect, execute, test, optimize. Now, a lot of people go through, somewhat of that framework, but the key piece is that there's a baton handoff between each phase.
mm,
So at the ideation phase, you have a concept brief. So whoever is doing the ideation comes from nothing. So it's usually the visionary or someone on the executive team, or at least a manager, someone where nothing was told to them. Like, it's the origin of where that came from nothing into idea. So then they download that into what's called a concept brief, that is kind of the quick and easy extraction of that vision. And then that's what's passed on to whoever's doing the architecting. So architecting is
yeah,
done usually by a project manager or whoever it is that's like going to create the details, the blueprint of what needs to be done. Okay, so we call that baton phase there a build plan. Okay, so under
yeah,
architect, you fill out a build plan. Depending on the scope of the project or task, it could be something that takes an hour, could be a couple weeks. But just along the same concept of measure twice, cut once, you
mhm,
want to make sure that you have all the details really outlined in that build plan. And then that's what's given over to the execution team, so they have everything that they need. They have all the constraints, they have all the cautionaries, they have all the parameters, they have what's the definition of success, what's the outcome that we're shooting for, how do we know when the thing is done, what does that look like, what are all the pieces that are involved, who are all the people that are executing on this project, what are all the different phases, the different tasks underneath this, the mini tasks assigned to this. And then once they're done, execution team's like, we did the thing, we did everything you asked for. Then that gets passed on to testing, where there's a QA process. So if you did everything right from the start, then great, your QA could be really simple, and that might be the end of the cycle. But if QA turns up anything, then it goes to an optimization phase right away, or it could be down the road where you think you did everything right, and then a year later on that same project, you're like, oh, you know what, we really could optimize this over here. Great, you don't need to do a whole build plan all over again. In the optimization phase, you basically do a mini build. It's the same concept, but just on a smaller scale. And then that gets passed back to execution once that's the optimization plan is done. And then you keep going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5 until it ends at 4 of testing. QA says, good to go. And now you have everything locked down.
That's phenomenal. And I say that, I mean, I work with a lot of different, particularly in the agency space, but even beyond, a lot of founders and leaders who really struggle with what you just described. They really struggle in the operational side of this. They're phenomenal at the beginning, but there comes a point where you have grown beyond, one person at the center of the spider web, so to speak,
Yeah.
where everything connects to them. What you're describing is something that will help them to develop a healthy and sustainable pace over time that will scale. Is that something that you see a lot of your clients doing as they begin to implement what you're
Yeah.
helping them with? Do they begin to see, oh, wow, I've got freedom and I've got growth?
Yes. So I'm gonna kind of answer that in a slightly different perspective, or another angle of the operating system is, so we have the 5 engines. As a
Mhm.
founder, the goal is to have somebody leading you as a founder. You run leadership. That is your
Uh-huh.
job. You are responsible for the culture, for the vision, for the essence of everything. So until you're big enough to hire a CEO in place of
Uh-huh.
you, then you're in charge of that engine.
Yes.
But then you want to get an engine lead for the other 4 as soon as possible. So that way, if you as a team, you have a 5-person team, but each person leads an engine, you can operate more efficiently and effectively than somebody with a 20-person team who's out of balance from an engine perspective. So just to
Mm.
use us as an example, that's how I built my company wrong.
Okay.
And that was kind of one of the origin pieces of this. I knew we were weak on the front end, sales and marketing side, but it was something that when I saw it from an engine perspective, I was like, oh, we have 4 seats on brand engine, but we don't have an engine. Not for lack of trying. I went through 4 rounds. I finally have a great marketing manager, but it took a few. I went every single type of fractional CMO, a company, in-house, and then now we have another in-house. She's the right fit. So we went through a whole thing, but at the time we didn't have an engine lead there, and we had no seats on the revenue
Mm.
engine. We had no one on the
Mm.
sales, lead gen, nothing. So I brought on 2 lead gen guys. So they were the first seat on the our revenue engine. But it's like, you want to make sure that your seats are balanced in order to actually move the needle forward. Because that's the
Yeah.
other thing, is that each engine has 5 drivers that drive the success of that engine. So there's 5 different subcomponents for each engine. And then that engine lead is responsible for assessing all 5 drivers every quarter. So you do a health check, the engine lead does in their engine every quarter, of, hey, how do we stack up? Where are our priorities? So
Yes.
that's something that rolls into what we call the rolling priority system, which replaces, if you're familiar with OKRs.
Mhm.
So OKRs are objective and key results. That was a red flag. We had me, my director of ops, and our ops manager, who all have plenty of ops background, and all 3 of us, we had to have like a whole meeting to make sure that we were on the same page of what really is an OKR and how do we explain this to the team. And it was like, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Because then you expect your non-operation team to understand what in the world you're actually talking about. Like, there's so many different layers of that, and they're just seeing anyone who's not an operator, they're just seeing sideways. They're like, your creative team's
Right.
like, huh, what? So OKRs are out. So now we have the rolling priority system, which ties into the 5 drivers inside the 5 engines. And then it's really clear. Not only is it clear to each engine lead what the priorities are, but it's something that we're able to articulate that to the whole team. So now we have visibility and buy-in throughout
Mm.
our whole team, not just the operations team members, where everybody knows what are the highest priorities that we should be working on right now. So if somebody has more bandwidth in their schedule. Like, okay, cool. Here's what I can take the initiative on and really start cooking, because I know what the
Mm,
priorities are well before it gets to now.
that's solid. I think that's good. I mean, as you implement this, as you work with your clients and this begins to be implemented, can you share a story or two of how they have seen incredible success from this? How it's made such a big difference in their companies?
Yeah, I would say even just so just the awareness of it. It's
Yeah.
amazing how just the awareness of seeing it from that perspective has a big difference. So,
Mm,
that's something that we for our operations program, we always run people through a 15-point assessment tool before we work with them in our program, the regular program or custom operations work, either one. And that's something that we've had people literally say, just from the assessment tool, that alone brought so much more clarity, that alone was helpful to them. And
so
so
good.
then when it's like, when you're able to actually see those things, you're able to see a diagnostic of what's going on. It's because otherwise you're just kind of, when people who aren't operators or they're struggling with operations, then it's something that if you can't see what's happening, then you can't do anything about it. But once you can see it and you have a framework for it, then you have a roadmap on how to fix it. And now the whole
Mhm.
world opens up. So we
Yes.
have team members who, like, I'd say it's amazing how many companies I talk to that they don't have core values.
Mm, mm.
And it's like, I mean, it's, yeah. And even if they do, where they're like, "Oh, yeah, like, I'd think that our core values would be this," is what some I've heard say, and I'm like, "Are they in writing? Does your team know what they are? Because if not, that does not count." So so literally just that, I'd say all the core value work I do personally, with all of our clients. And,
Wow.
because I just find that fun, because that's something that, like, I just talked to somebody just yesterday, and it was just, like, such an aha moment, because there's somebody who came from the corporate world, and
Mm,
and so he came from, like, corporate, where core values were just, like, a nice thing on a wall, and he
yeah.
was like, "I don't need to do core values, like, no one cares about those, so why bother?" And I was like, "No." I go, "Your core values are your North Star for your entire company. It's how you make decisions. How you
Yes.
know, should you go left or should you go right, is based on, does it match your core values?
Mm,
Should you hire or keep a team member or a client? Or should you add this aspect of your business? What should your terms and service, terms and conditions look like?
that's good.
How do you handle any situation? All of those things go back to your core values. And it's like, if you don't have those in writing, then what are you doing? You're driving blind. You're driving without a dashboard, without a, with your, in your car. You don't drive with, all your, everything on your dash covered up. No, you have all the different metrics that show you the status report in all these different areas. Like, why are you doing that in your business without that?
That's so good. I think having you come alongside is something that is incredibly beneficial for your clients. And I know a lot of the folks who are listening are at a point where they feel like operationally they're at a loss. They're not sure. They don't know what to do next. It's very difficult to see the whole picture when you're in the frame. And that's where having a trusted advisor who comes alongside you, who brings the expertise and the knowledge base of helping so many other people with similar things can come alongside and help you go farther faster, can help you find those shortcuts and say, hey, I know you've seen this not work right somewhere else, but let me tell you why it's so important. You need these values. Let me tell you why. And who can help you shortcut the process and avoid driving into a ditch that they would otherwise be right into.
Yeah.
I know this is something that is resonating because I hear the ops challenges all the time. I hear people talk about this. They don't know what to do next. And I think having a conversation with you is a phenomenal next step. We're going to talk about that in just a minute, how people can do that. Before we get there, I want to dive into a couple of questions that we ask all of our guests here. One of those is this, your team, your clients need you to lead at a higher level today than they did a year or two ago. And that same thing is going to be true a year, 2, 5 years from now. So how do you, Rebecca, how do you level up? How do you stay on top of your game and develop the new leadership skills that your team and your clients are going to need you to have in the days to come?
Yeah, no, I love this question. So a handful of different ways. So one first thing that comes to mind is so my team keeps me on my toes for sure. I'm constantly putting certain things in front of my team so that they can level up,
Hmm,
and then
that's
when
good.
they level up, that keeps me sharp. So
That's right.
every single Wednesday, we do a 30-minute training with the whole team. So it could be on technical things, it could be on mindset, communication, health, mind, body, spirit. I mean, we cover a whole gamut of things also require every single team member to lead at least one. Past one, it's totally optional.
So
And
good.
yeah, and so that's something it's just we've had some incredible trainings come out of that, especially from my project manager, who she's been with me for 2.5 years, and it's just oh, she's incredible. But that's something that just seeing them, that's a reflection to me that it's like I always need to be multiple steps ahead of them. And I'm constant there, that needle keeps moving. So I'm like, oh, I gotta make sure my needle's moving too.
Yes.
So that's one. Um, Having the right people around you in a formal and informal perspective both, that's something that I've always done on a personal level, is just the people that I have around me are always I don't know what small talk is. I'm not very good at small talk. I don't know how to do it. I'm not good at it. I get super awkward and clammed up. But when it comes to deep, vulnerable, transparent conversations that really move the needle forward of who you are as a human, I have as many of those around me all the time. My best friend, close friends, family, unofficial professional mentors, I guess you could say. People who are in their 60s that have they've been doing things for many years. And then on a formal perspective, so I'm really excited. I'm just about to start working with you. We just confirmed that's going to be moving forward. As soon as I saw you speak, I was like, oh my gosh, I would be honored to have you as a mentor, because it's just when you find somebody who's really uh, a quality human and who has a clarity in things that are more advanced than where you are in whatever that thing
Mm,
is. Those are the people that you want to have around you. So just to
mm.
have as many of those things from every single perspective as possible. So I'm always looking for people, tools, trainings, frameworks, because it's always an endless journey to level up as a leader.
Well, and I commend you for the teachable spirit that you have, Rebecca. And I think this is key to success. And I talk about this on the show a lot. It's very easy to slide into maintenance mode when it comes to learning and
Yeah.
think, oh, I know enough. I've got this. And you just begin to operate out of rote memory. And that is not what the best leaders do. The best leaders I know approach every day with that teachable spirit and say, you know what? I can learn from anybody and I can learn from any situation. What am I going to learn today? I want to be the most teachable person in every environment I go into today. And that's what I see in you. And I'm excited about working together. I think it's going to be great. And the reason that I said yes to that is because you have that. That's a non-negotiable for me, for somebody that I'm going to work with. I think that is critical. And for our listeners, this is a choice you can make. You get to decide every day if you are going to be the most teachable person in the rooms you're in. You get to decide if you're going to have that teachable spirit. And I'm going to challenge you to make that decision. Rebecca, you are in that continual learning mode. And I'm curious, is there a book that has made a big difference in your journey that you would
Yeah.
recommend to the leaders who are listening?
I have a couple. Before I answer that, though, I just want to tie off on one other thing on the
Yeah.
previous topic, though, where that's something that we always have ebbs and flows of
Hmm.
how much space we have for continued learning and for leveling up. And it's like when things are calm and quiet, like that's the time to pile on the learning and to
Hmm.
really dig into challenges and really your blind spots and anything that's a blocker. But when things are really busy, that you might not have the opportunity for a course, a book, or whatever the thing is, but there's always an opportunity for each moment. Anything that comes
Yes.
up that's a friction point to then take that opportunity of, okay, what am I missing in this one moment that can help facilitate a breakthrough for myself, for somebody on my team, for a client, for whatever that is. So
Yes.
it is there's always a moment for some sort of continued learning, even if it's those small micro opportunities.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well said.
So, and then on the book aspect, there's a couple things that come to mind. On the business side, I'd say my favorite book is Billion Dollar Bullseye by Jonathan Cronstadt, J. Cron. So that I would say is as far as any like one book that encompasses, at least for anybody who's looking to scale their business, they have aggressive goals for their business. I think it's really the most all encompassing book of just all sorts of different components of business.
Hmm,
And
that's good.
then for uh, on the personal or just not business side, my favorite author is Dr. David Hawkins. So
Hmm.
not even going to say a specific book of Dr. David Hawkins, but I'd say whatever calls to somebody um, is letting go is kind of his like starter book. It's anything but elementary, but hands down my favorite author.
I'm not familiar with him. Now I have to go check him out. Thank you for that.
Yes, absolutely.
Rebecca, it's easy sometimes for us to look at a leader like you and just see the highlight reel. Just see, oh my goodness, what success, what incredible influence and impact Rebecca's having. I bet she doesn't struggle like I struggle. I bet she didn't really have any problems in her business. And we know that that's not true. We know that there are always challenges behind the scenes. There are always things that you would love to solve. And so, in that spirit, I'm going to ask you this. If I had the ability to snap my fingers and solve one problem in your business right now, what would you want that problem to be?
Definitely the front end of business, the sales and marketing side. That's something that I love everything the backside of business. Most of the time founders are trying to get out of their business, like not be in their business. For me, I love
Mhm.
being in my business. That's my fun zone. But it's the inbound piece, the sales and marketing side. Because for me, I'm the kind of person where I want I like when people tell me what you want and I can go build the thing.
Yeah.
You bring a problem to me and I'll figure out how to fix it. But to go out and connect with other people and to sell them on things, that's not, it's like you could do that in a way that is full of integrity and is absolutely in somebody's best interest.
Mm,
That's what that should be. But I guess I don't know. I'm sure I have some sort of blind spot blocker somewhere there where to me it's like there's just an aspect of manipulation. At least like because I encounter so many people in the sales and marketing realm
yeah.
that is a thing, and it's like that's I have such an aversion to receiving that, and I never in a million years ever want to be received by that by somebody else. And so I
That's
think
good.
from that creates a disconnect for me with sales and marketing. And I'm just like, can everyone just come to me and just tell me what you want fixed? Just bring me all your problems,
Wouldn't that
word
be
vomit it,
great?
dump
Just
it on all
everybody
the
comes to
table.
you.
Oh yeah, I tell it like it doesn't it don't make it don't bother making it pretty. I don't need to just dump it all on the table. I'll figure out how to fix all of it. I can do that, but to go out in the sales and marketing side. So yeah, I would say that that's something that we're definitely actively looking for as a business. I've really kind of put some thought into it recently that I want to bring somebody into our business on the biz dev, like business development representative, someone who's just going to be out there and like really bringing that piece in on the front end.
That's good.
So yeah,
Well, I appreciate the transparency and
yeah,
really the generosity today in sharing so openly about what it is that you're doing and even the challenges and struggles that you've had throughout. I think to say, you kind of built it backwards, and now you're trying to go back. That is refreshing to hear somebody talk about that. I know you are making a tremendous difference in your clients' businesses and in their lives and reducing their stress level and increasing their impact and their revenue. And I know a lot of the people listening need exactly what you are doing. They need somebody to come in with fresh eyes to assess, evaluate, and help them see what they can't see so that they can get to the other side of the problem season that they're in right now. If somebody's ready for that, how do they get in touch with you?
yeah. So I would go to our website, businessdonebetter.co. So there's no M on the end, businessdonebetter.co. And you can fill out a contact form there, and that'll make sure that it gets to me in the right way. And just anything that you're dealing with, back end of business, whether it's operations, CRM system, fulfillment, team related, Whatever those issues are, just, fill out that form, and I'll make sure that I personally get back to anybody that fills out that form. So that's going to be the sustainable place to always be able to reach me and my company. But yeah, I think I just kind of want to just take the opportunity to just remind people that anytime you are struggling with anything in your business and life in general, but I mean, I think the business side especially, um, there's a million people who have had those exact same problems. It is more fixable than you think. I was talking to
Yes.
somebody yesterday, and we were doing an assessment, operations assessment, I have them rate certain things as 0 through 10, and a lot of things he was rating as like a 3, and he was just having just like a he was totally shutting down. He was like, "Well, that doesn't look good. Well, that's this is really ugly." And he's like just having such like a block of,
Yeah.
I'm bringing this mess. Is this really fixable? He'd been doing his business for 8 years, and he was like, had total stagnation for the last couple years. And he was like, is this ever really going to move forward? We've kind of
Mm.
been in the same place for so long. Like, is this able to actually be fixed? And I was like, every single thing that we're covering on this assessment, not only can it be fixed, but we can fix all of it. We
Yes.
have the answers for every single. I wouldn't have you rating things as a fail score if it wasn't something that I could give you a solution for. So I have we always run through that just to see where the priorities really lie. Um, but it was just like, don't be too hard on yourself. It's This is all fixable. It's there are solutions, and anything operationally. Radical transparency is one of our core values as a company,
Mm.
and so that's
Love that.
something that, yeah. So I mean, that shows up in so many different aspects of us as individuals, a company, how we do business, etc. But that's something that operationally, if we're not the right fit, I have a great network. I'll refer you to somebody else who is a better fit. At the very least, put somebody on the right direction. But most things from an operational perspective, we absolutely can support.
We'll have that link in the show notes. And I want to strongly encourage, if this is a pain point for you, and I know many of you it is, take action, right? Fill out the form, get the conversation started. I've often regretted not taking action. I've rarely regretted stepping in and doing it. So I'm going to challenge each one of you, listen to the show, contact Rebecca. She can help. Rebecca, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Absolutely a pleasure being here.